Now, if I said ain't gonna let nobody, y'all know what comes next?
Turn me around.
Who said turn me around?
Turn me around.
All right, I'll make sure I got some warriors in the house this morning. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. I ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, walking up the freedom road. Ain't gonna let segregation turn me around. Hey, turn me around. Yeah, turn me around. Ain't gonna let segregation turn me around. Gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, walking up the freedom road. Now some of y'all are still quiet. I ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Hey, turn me around. Hey, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, walking up the freedom road. Come on.
Let's get it started.
That's the plan on this cold January morning.
That's right.
I tell you what, I love your theme, I love your motto, but I'm telling you what, and what we're facing in this nation, if we're going to protect the dream, we're going to have to, it's not just going to be sitting back watching Netflix. It's going to take more than a tweet. It's going to take more than a Facebook post. We're going to have to keep on walking, keep on talking, walking up the freedom road. Okay, y'all asked me to speak, not sing. Okay. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, y'all are coming to life. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm beginning to like y'all out here in Joplin. Wow. Okay. Now I'm going to try to act like a scholar and intellectual. I am so humbled to be a part of the celebration and recognition of Dr. King here in the city of Joplin. I want to thank Dr. Jill and all of the committee for their work and effort to bring this together. Rain or shine, snow or cold. Dr. Marble, Mayor Shar, all of our elected officials, thank you sincerely for what you do. Being a leader in our communities today is not like it used to be. Community leaders, greetings, peace to all of you. I want to thank each of you for being here this morning. And I want to honor your city, your larger community, for your resilience and for the adversity that you've overcome. I would like to recognize our city, campus, and community leaders who are here today. I bring you greetings and love from the city of Springfield, Cheryl Clay, our former NAACP leader, and our new leader, Sister Tony, and also from President Cliff Smart and the Missouri State University campus. I am so appreciative of your theme because I believe it captures where we are in this nation and in our state in particular. Does not mean that I have to entertain you or get you motivated for the next round of the struggle. I want to believe that your presence here already means that you know what we have to do, that we have work to do. But rather I want to just share a bit or a perspective and encourage you not to be tricked, not to be fooled, but to, as the theme suggests, protect the dream. Look at somebody and say, protect the dream.
Protect the dream.
See, if we're going to endure me for about 15 more minutes, we're going to have to talk, we're going to have to pat each other on the back, we're going to have to laugh, we might have to cry, we might have to sing some more, and we might have to keep on walking, keep on talking. Okay. And I need you to participate. So every now and then you might have to look at somebody and say, ain't gonna let nobody.
Don't let nobody.
I like you, all right. We're just warming up this morning.
That's right.
Well, you can tell from the color of my hair that I'm not a centennial or a millennial. In fact, at this age of my life, I don't know what I am in terms of that kind of age cohort. But I know I'm on the battlefield. But I do know we're all still on the battlefield for justice. And like most folks my age, I do have stories. And I do know that we all have to stay woke. But perhaps two short ones that I will share, and then I want to relate to the theme this morning. My best friend was a young man named Coach Ricky Birdsong. He was the first African-American head coach in the Big Ten at Northwestern University. On July 4th week in 1999, he was murdered by a white supremacist 1/2 block from his house in Skokie, Illinois, while taking an afternoon stroll with two of his children. That event was so shocking that most of us could not even speculate how something like that could even take place. And for 2 days, a young man who actually went to Indiana University went on a 2-state shooting spree in which he actually shot at about 16 people and actually murdered 2, including my best friend, Ricky Birdsong. That was a wake-up call for me. It gave me perspective. It helped me to realize that the battle for social justice wasn't confined to a neighborhood or to an economic class or status, and that there was not a stereotype of those who would espouse hatred and bigotry. That actually became a national and even an international story. And it was one of the starting points for the legislation of hate crime, which President Clinton, Bill Clinton, put into law. Coming to the Ozarks, and when I share this, it's not to offend, but it's help us to understand the times in which we live. My first summer here, I was enjoying getting on a bike and enjoying the great outdoors. And I remember that very hot summer day, I was riding along with 2 friends on one of our city's main thoroughfares. And initially I didn't quite know what had happened. But 3 men in a pickup truck rode by and shouted the N-word out of the window. And feeling a sting on my backside, I soon realized I had been hit by a paintball. Coming from Chicago, South Side, I didn't know what had happened at first. Because in Chicago, when we hear zings, dings, and pings, in Chi-Town, we hit the floor. Because we think it's a bullet. But my friends told me, Lyle, they got you with the paintball, man. I got on my bike. I turned around. I went back to my little apartment and got into bed. I don't mind telling you this morning that tears streamed down my cheeks. And I'm not making this up because today is the day we commemorate Dr. King. But I actually remember getting in my bed and I actually said out loud, Dr. King, this was 14 years ago, but I did. I said, Dr. King, now we know it wasn't in person. I said, we haven't gotten to the dream yet.
That's right.
I said, Dr. King, it's still a long way off. In my mind, I thought, I have degrees from Ivy League schools. But in this nation, I am still regarded by some as just another end. I'm just being honest with you. Because these experiences were real and they helped me to shape myself and let me know that I couldn't go to sleep because I had an education. Or stay to myself because I had a job. Because you understand now, until we're all free, none of us are free.
Right.
Yeah.
So just a few thoughts to share with you this beautiful January morning when we have all gathered together to protect the dream. First, I want to say, don't get distracted We're in the great state of Missouri, and the country is and has been watching us for the last few years. We are the show me state, and lately we have been showing the nation. Now, Dr. Jill invited me last year and it got canceled. I'm here this year and I'm not expecting to come back again, so I'm just going to drop it like it's hot. And then I'm going to the exit door. So I know the fact that we are here and this is our home means we have a job to accomplish on the road to social justice. You in this audience, you know the facts around the weakening of the discrimination laws in our state. The first time ever travel ban issued by the NAACP was for our state. That should cause something to happen to us to realize we have that dubious distinction. Ferguson, Mizzou, St. Louis, the disparities in education, the lack of accreditation until only recently for our largest school districts in St. Louis and in Kansas City, the pushback, the take back, the walk back, the turn back, the stab in the back. Don't get weary though. Don't get bamboozled and don't get tricked. Look at somebody and say, ain't gonna let nobody. Ain't gonna let nobody. Oh, come on now. Look at somebody and say, ain't gonna let nobody. Let me tell you something. Y'all don't get excited. I can get excited about myself. Because I know we've got some work to do. Now, what are we protecting about the dream? I want to submit 3 things today that we must protect. I think we must first come into an agreement on what the dream is. I don't want this to sound as an affront to Dr. King. I would never do that, to what he taught and what he represented. But I would submit we need to envision Dr. King's dream in contemporary times. In the same way we don't communicate on the party line phone anymore. And every now and then in my classes, when we're talking about culture and technology, I'll ask the students, how many of you all know what a party line phone is? And they literally look at me like I'm an alien. But I know there might be a few people that recall when you would actually pick up the phone and Mrs. Johnson down the road was on the phone and you would say, Mrs. Johnson, how long? That's when we used to greet people with some respect and honor. But we would say, Mrs. Johnson, how long are you going to be on the phone? And she said, honey, child, baby, about sugar, about 10, 15 more minutes. I see a few of you laughing and nodding. All of y'all with these $1,000 tin phone, IX, DX, GX, TX, you don't know what I'm talking about. And depending on what mood you're in and who you wanted to talk to, sometimes you would just pretend you hung up the phone and you would just eavesdrop. And you would just listen to what Ms. Johnson was saying. But the point is, we understand that we can't just freeze in time the perspective of social justice and this work. So when Reverend King said all God's children, I believe we have to expand that today as we understand diversity in a broader context than we ever have before.
Right.
It has got to include everyone, and everyone means everyone. Look at somebody and say everyone. Everyone means everyone.
Means everyone.
I see Joplin warming up this morning. There's some fire up in here. I like that. I like that. This has been one of the hindrances to the dream, in that we think our concern sometimes only extends to my community. Look at someone and say, your community, your community is my community. My community. That goes for the African American community, the Latinx community, the Muslim community. When my best friend was killed, our Jewish brothers and sisters walked with us for 40 days in our neighborhood vigil that denounced hatred and bigotry. And even to this day, there's an annual race against hate in my brother's honor, and indeed all God's children come to walk and run against hate. The LGBTQI community is our community. The disabled community is our community.
Right.
The veterans, the seniors,
That's right.
the homeless. They mentioned, I think in my introduction, I don't like introductions because sometimes introductions set people up for a great expectation and usually they're let down. So I just like you to say, here comes Lyle. And it is what it is. So I have a little business, Mayor, on a little street that when I opened it up, they thought I was cuckoo, 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 because we had homeless folks up and down the street. But I'm a man that believes in that someone else created me, that I wasn't spit out from an atom. No respect, all respect to the scientists. And so I always felt like I was led there and that I had a vision that community was coming back.
Amen.
And for the first few years, it seemed like there were more homeless than customers. But I tell you what, the homeless and those who without are also part of our community.
Right.
We are, in fact, our brother's keeper. Dr. Marble, we're in this together. I'm looking, I saw a sign for the George Washington Carver, so hopefully somebody's here. We're in this together.
All right.
Joplin, we're in this together. Our community, your community is my community. Carthage, we're in this together. I think you get the idea. Now quickly, I don't want them to get the cane and pull me off the stage like at the Apollo. There are three things we need to protect. The promise of America, or should I say the United States, that we are all created equal, and that each of us should have the same opportunity as anyone else.
Amen.
Now, often when confronted with this statement, many will say, well, everyone already has that. But we know that the facts and the data suggest otherwise. There are many things that I could cite, but an example would be the following. Young black children aged 0 to 8 years were almost 3 times more likely to be rated as being lazy compared to white children. And with Native Americans and Hispanic Latinx young children also more likely to be considered lazy than whites. Young black children were more than twice as likely to be rated as unintelligent or violence prone compared with white children of the same age. And with young Hispanic Latinx children also seen as more unintelligent or violence prone than white children. This is according to a study by Harvard. Now, we also recognize, because I grew up in the era, believe it or not, of segregated schools, and I was part of one of the first group of children to desegregate the schools in my native state of Virginia. But we now know from statistics and data that our schools today, our public schools, are more segregated now than they almost were when we had Brown versus Board of Education. What's up with that? Because now we've segregated our communities by income and by class and by wealth and by the haves and have-nots. So at Missouri State, I have students who come from 99% and 100% African-American public high schools in the city of St. Louis. And I'm like, how can your school be 100%? They're like, man, that's what it is. And then we have children who've gone to 100% white schools. So it's not a legal segregation, but our schools are still segregated. So protecting the dream means this promise that every child in our nation can be whoever and whatever they want to be. We've still got to fight for that. Second, tomorrow is the National Day of Racial Healing. There is a wound in this land.
Right. All right.
I think we now know that we can't wish to pass away. We have to look at what has happened and work together to solve it and to put a balm on it. We saw this wound ooze in Charlottesville. I was in Charlottesville in November, and of course I had to go to the park to see where the atrocities were committed. I got my bald fade while I was in a barbershop in Charlottesville, 2 blocks. And I listened to the barbers tell me about what happened that day. And of course, I believe barbershops are on the front line. And I got the real story. I didn't get the NBC, the CBS, the ABC, the Fox. I got the front line story from the brothers who saw it happen. And I'm telling you, it was a wake-up call. When I went to Charleston, South Carolina, I went to Mother Emanuel AME Church and paid respect to my 9 brothers and sisters who were murdered while in Bible study. Somebody saying that's not a wound in this land? I contemplate what was going on in the mind of the young woman in the St. Louis apartment building, where in 2018 she asked an African-American man to identify himself with an ID as he sought to return to the apartment that he was renting in the same building after a long day of work. What's wrong with you all? Can you show me your ID? I feel uncomfortable. Hey, I'm paying my rent up in here. I'm going to my apartment.
All right.
There's a wound in this land. And we have seen this same strain of pushback in swimming pools, lemonade stands, Airbnbs, and the recent story of the young wrestler, can y'all handle this, who was ordered by the referee
Say that.
to cut his dreads or forfeit the march. Huh? Did that really happen in 2018? Do we not know this is what our indigenous brothers and sisters went through when they were sent to the boarding schools? What our ancestors endured at the slave auction block? And this young scholar was subjected to this in front of a public wrestling match? Well, since I mentioned him, let me read the poem that I wrote in his honor. You stood as tall as you could when they did what they said they would. Cut your hair and let your dreadlocks fall. To the ground they went in the sight of all. We know it hurt. We saw it all over your face. But many wonder still if it was because of your race. Your hair will grow. Let it come back again. For your hair is beautiful, yes, so beautiful, my friend. Your dreadlocks are strong, apparently more so than we. Grow them long as you can, so each one of us can see. Now keep standing. Stand as tall as you can.
Right.
Remember, you showed us which one was a man. Healing this nation is part of the dream, and eliminating the hate and bigotry. So as we protect the dream, we need to look hatred in the face. We need to look bigotry in the face. And instead of excusing it, we need to address it, attack it, and eliminate it, because that's how we protect the dream.
All right.
Last, we must commit to cultural competence and consciousness as a real and tangible skill set that is necessary, even required. We have too many examples of students and leaders and other members of our community who do just the most inappropriate and say the most inappropriate things. Over the weekend, Oklahoma University, I believe, sent out another letter of apology for one of its students in a fraternity. And typically when these things happen, we have a very scholarly, academic, very heartfelt sounding letter. We want you to know this does not reflect who we are in this community. And we are very deeply sorry for any harm and hatred this might have caused. But I will say this back to you. This is who we are because it keeps happening.
All right.
We keep pretending it's not who we are. These people did not come from another planet. They came from our very own neighborhoods.
Amen.
So we now need to do something about it. I later met a professor, this is the gospel truth, who had that young man who killed my best friend in his classroom at Indiana University. He came from a very affluent home. One parent was a doctor. One parent, mayor, was a member of the city council in a very affluent suburb of Chicago. Very intelligent man, but filled with hatred and bigotry. I have students that will say, well, my grandparents are just like that. You know, I know they're racist, but you know, that's just the way they are. And I'm here to say this morning, that's not good enough anymore. That's not a good excuse anymore, it's just the way they are. We've got to address this in our nation if we're going to protect the dream.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, we are taking steps, but we can't be apologetic because we advocate for diversity and inclusion. I think this is an important step in protecting the dream. I'm not going to come into your community and tell you what to do, but I do believe there are examples all around us, and even us being here is a step in protecting the dream. We have recently created in Springfield the Springfield Greene County African American Heritage Trail. And we're in the process of marking 16 sites in our city and county with heritage signs to mark areas of cultural significance for the history and contributions of our African American community, to bring healing and to build competence. At Missouri State, we have created a diversity minor and expanded our curriculum and hiring practices to ensure we're walking what we're talking. And I understand you're doing things here at Missouri Southern. You're doing things here in the Joplin larger community as well, and I applaud that. But we do understand we can't just stop at what we've done. We've got to keep pushing forward.
All right.
It is not acceptable in 2019 for intelligent folks to say they didn't know and that no one told them. We must believe the dream, the work, the future is too important to leave it to chance. I hope that our being here today is evidence that we want to take the steps to protect the dream. It is more important today than ever. The dream of Dr. King is why we're here this morning. As we leave this place after we do awards and other things this morning, let's leave with renewed commitment to protecting the dream. This dream is for everyone. Our nation must be healed, and we must all be culturally conscious and culturally competent. Thank you for listening to me this morning. Remember this, don't let nobody turn you around. Thank you.